we want to just give you a little bit of an update of what happened, since the horrific scenes that we saw in the Champions League final outside of Stade de France as well. A game may have been happening during that time, but a lot of chaos ensued before, during, and after as well, of course. So James Benge, welcome, buddy. Give us the latest information as more and more things are trickling down on my Twitter feed. What's going on?
Yeah, so as we speak, this is Tuesday morning Eastern time. UEFA have launched what they inevitably had to do and launched an independent investigation into the events outside the Stade de France on Saturday night. I'm sure JJ will be able to update us on the Parisian side of things, and it really is something that's dividing conversations and dividing debate here in the UK as well. An awful lot of very angry politicians and angry supporters as well, furious at the way that Liverpool fans were treated. I saw this firsthand. I remember sat next to Jonathan at the Stade de France about 45 minutes before kickoff and thought, okay, there's something going on. You see some stuff on Twitter pop down, and I have to say nothing prepared me for what I saw outside. It had been difficult getting in at the time, but this was absolute chaos. Supporters that had bought their tickets were showing you their tickets, and by all accounts, they looked pretty valid to me. We're hemmed up. We're not being allowed in. Everywhere you went, there were gendarmes in riot gear running left and right. It was a very scary atmosphere, I have to say, to be honest. Nothing compared to what it was like after as well, I should say. Pepper spray, tear gas. I think there was a moment for me where I sort of said, why am I coughing and crying? And you realize that some of the tear gas has blown you away. It was an absolute mess. That was followed, I thought, and I don't know how familiar this is to JJ, but it was followed by quite what I found quite scary journey back home. I walked to Saint-Denis metro station, which is where I hadn't gone before, but the way that police were letting us out kind of forced me that way. Just after I'd done an HQ hit at about midnight. And you suddenly became aware, because people were shouting, that there were people getting mugged, people being intimidated, real absence of police presence, absence of any signs. I suddenly found myself walking into the metro station. I had no idea it was anywhere at all. But that's the sort of experience for the night. What we will sort of see from here on out, I think, is a game of political point scoring, at least until we get this full and independent review. And I think there'll be a lot of questions for UEFA and the French police to answer.
Yeah, and there seems to be a failure to recognise at this moment in time from the French government of sort of any wrongdoing, which is truly stunning, to be honest. I won't say, that it's completely a surprise that they would back their own, but to the degree that they have so far with some of the numbers that have been thrown around it's really jaw-dropping and very disappointing. I mean, as James, painted the picture really well with the mayhem on Saturday. I mean, going back to my experience of it, it was slightly different. I mean, we both tried to arrive, about 3 hours ahead of kickoff, which, we managed to do successfully. I was actually entering into the stadium around about the time that a big amount of Real Madrid fans did, but it was, it sticks in the memory. And looking back on it now, I do remember there were, a lot of police dressed up in riot gear. And when you think back to it a bit more, it's almost kind of like they prepared for the wrong kind of match. They were almost prepared for a clash where they expected there to be a lot of, violence, two sets of fans going at each other, and I think, one of the many problems, that created the awful and chaotic scenes is that they misread, the two sets of fans. There was an assumption that Liverpool fans would prove troublesome, and I think they perhaps expected that it would be different, from the Real Madrid fans as well. I think they must have expected some of the locals to try and get in, because when you look at the video evidence, you cannot refute, that some of the guys vaulting the fence, going in, not even, flashing a ticket because they don't have one. They knew the situation very well, and they were almost preparing, to make the most of it, like the pickpockets, because when you've got the fans funneled in, in such a limited space, it's obvious that sort of thing is going to happen. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon in Paris, but I think a massively chaotic organization or lack of organization. It's a huge disappointment. It puts major pressure on now, not only in terms of future events, should they be permitted to have any anytime soon, but the Olympics is coming up. You've got the Rugby World Cup as well. So it's big sporting events on the horizon, and this doesn't look good for the French government and for the French police. And let's not forget, Emmanuel Macron played a big role in getting that match moved once St. Petersburg was no longer going to be considered to be the venue of the final. And for that sort of disaster to go down on home soil, there has to be some accountability. So we will see if the line from the French government and the Parisian police changes over the next week or so. I'm not convinced it will massively, but there has to be some recognition of fault. It's split over many different parties, but I think the one party that the French government are trying to point fingers at, cannot really be faulted. I thought the Liverpool fans' behaviour in extreme circumstances was exemplary, and it's just hugely disappointing that this has gone down. Kind of in my backyard, so to speak. I've been to so many football matches at Stade de France over the years. I was there the night of the Paris attacks. I've never seen the kind of chaos that we saw on Saturday just gone in 10 years or so of covering football matches there. It was hugely disappointing. And I think that it also points to a big problem in French football, as I wrote on the site a day or so ago, that French football is trying to deal with. Yes, we've seen all the fan problems, and some of the
I'd like to add very briefly before we talk about what's to come in European football. JJ is spot on in addressing Liverpool fans here, and I wish that some of the police that had been at the ground had been, wandering around Paris like so many of us were that morning. One of the most wonderful atmospheres, Real Madrid and Liverpool fans intermingling. The sun was shining, the beers were flowing. Sadly, not for me and JJ, but we can but dream. And it was a fantastic atmosphere, and I didn't see any trouble at all, and you didn't hear about any the night before as well, it should be said. And Liverpool fans in particular really understand what can happen in these situations, and we had to be very careful talking about this on the site. But I was there doing Vox Pops with Liverpool supporters. All of them said this could have been another Hillsborough, and obviously that is a really loaded term for Liverpool fans to use. And the one final thing to show that they were treated different, if you go and watch the video at the final whistle, the Liverpool fans who are waiting for it to be confirmed that their team has lost, their end is the one where there are police every few inches in case of a pitch invasion or anything like that. What are they going to invade the pitch about? The Real Madrid fans at the other end? Nothing. There's no police presence there. They were treated very differently, and they were treated in a way that showed a basic lack of, people say they're treated like animals. You don't treat animals the way that people treated Liverpool fans. That's animal cruelty. It was disgraceful scenes, and I think it spoiled a wonderful day. I didn't particularly enjoy the final and all those things because of it, and I know I'm not alone, and a lot of Liverpool fans would share that. Yeah, very dispiriting to be talking about this still.